Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is the 18th of January 2022. These are the stories that we will be discussing during the course of the show. We'll begin with the 400 billion agreement between China and Iran that has begun its implementation. That was, of course, confirmed by the Iranians while there was a visit to China. And at the same time, it highlights a very important cooperation between these two countries, that is the People's Republic of China and Iran. How is that going to change the geostrategic or the geoeconomic landscape of the region? This is going to be our leading story of the day. Then, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be talking about Pakistan-China relations and the future of peace in Afghanistan, as well as the Pak-China cooperation, Pak-Russia rather cooperation on Afghanistan. There has been a second telephonic conversation between Vladimir Putin and our Prime Minister Imran Khan Saab, in which different facets of the cooperation have been discussed, including also Afghanistan and the current situation and how both countries can move forward as far as cooperating on Afghanistan is concerned. This is going to be our second story of the day. Our third story, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi group that attacked the United Arab Emirates using drones on Monday, setting fire to fuel-hit trucks. As a result, there has also been retaliation in which more than a dozen have been dead in coalition strikes in Yemen's Sana'a following this attack. This is going to be our third story. Our fourth story is about 26 people who have been killed in Afghanistan, in the western part of Afghanistan, in the Qadis district. And of course, this has caused immense damage, in addition to this economic and humanitarian crisis that Afghanistan is currently embroiled in. Then we'll be talking about the 67th death anniversary of Saadat Hasan Manto Saab, renowned playwright, renowned writer, and of course somebody who is more or less of a legend in Pakistan. We celebrate his life, we celebrate his times as well. And then finally, we'll be talking about Imran Khan and how he has talked about Sialkot and how the Sialkot's business community has transferred $100,000 of Priyanka Kumara's widow, and Rajco Industries has also transferred a monthly salary of $2,000 to her account. This salary will be given to her for a period of 10 years. This is going to be our last story of the day. Let's begin with our leading story, ladies and gentlemen, and that concerns the growing relationship between Iran and China. A 400 billion agreement that had been signed some time back between the two countries is now gaining shape. More in the following report.
The strategic alliances in Asia are undergoing dramatic shifts given the fluctuating trends in international and regional politics. The striking developments in Sino-Iranian relations hint at an Iran-China alliance and Chinese shift towards Iran against the backdrop of latest round of talks in Vienna aimed at restoring the joint comprehensive plan of action. Reports indicated that China is playing a very active role in Vienna talks as key obstacles remain to be cleared by Tehran and the West. Meanwhile, Iran is looking east as Iranian foreign minister visited China to discuss the implementation of bilateral comprehensive cooperation pact and other significant issues. According to the deal signed in March 2021, China will invest $400 billion across Iran for the next 25 years in return for Iranian oil. In addition to its investment clauses, the agreement also calls for security cooperation and an intelligence partnership. Iran's recent accession to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, a Chinese-led international organization dedicated to advancing the economic, political, and cultural interests of all member states, also indicate growing multilateralism in the region. As the US reduces investment and contracts its presence in the Middle East, China is emerging as key global player, seeking to take up the power vacuum left by the US.
Now, to discuss this facet of relationship between China and Iran, how is going to change the regional dynamics as far as geostrategic or geo-economic cooperation between different countries in the region is concerned, how is the West going to take this? We've been joined by Salman Bhittani, who is an international affairs expert. Thank you very much, Salman, to have joined us. Salman, China and Iran, this $400 billion deal that had been signed some time back is now taking shape, and that has been reiterated by the Iranian side. Now, there are different facets to it. There are different sectors in which both the countries are going to work together. Is this going to create a problem for the West?
It depends because there are different parties who have different interests in the region, and with particular reference to relationship with Iran. Iran has always been in troubled water as far as the international politics is concerned, specifically after 1979's revolution. But in the recent times, if we see, the United States have been pushing Iran really hard with its sanctions, with its political isolation, specifically the former tenure of President Trump. It has also pushed Iran into a very dark corner. It is facing a lot of economic problems, particularly in pandemic. We have seen that Iran has struggled a lot, since every country is struggling. In this time, I think China has stood up to not only the requirements of Iran, but it is a master stroke as well in international politics, because you see China has great relations with Pakistan, and it has embarked upon a very ambitious project, that is Belt and Road.
Of course.
And then the neighboring Iran, which is an important country, and it has great importance from geostrategic perspective, from geoeconomic perspective. It has got the Strait of Hormuz. It has fourth largest, if I'm not wrong, reserves of oil. The resilient Iranian nation is like, if it is pro your country or pro China or any country, it's a valuable asset in the region. And we have seen in the past as well that India has also been trying to establish good relations with Iran because of its strategic importance.
Is that going to change something between India and Iran? Because of course we know the relationship, the tension that exists between China and India. Now that of course we see a very, very huge partnership between China and Iran taking shape. This is what I'm trying to understand. Is that going to change the regional dynamics? Do you feel that India is going to side with some other country, or India is will try to pull Iran towards its side? Is there going to be a balanced relationship as far as Iran is concerned with different countries in the region? How is it all going to play out?
I think Iran is a very pragmatic country as far as these bilateral and multilateral agreements are concerned, and its positioning. It has been closing up with and cozying up with India. It has been taking a lot of economic, financial aid from India, particularly in the development of Chabahar port. But that has also been used as something which could influence Chinese behavior as well, and that's why Chinese have come up with the strategic deal, which is very hefty. The amount is very hefty. The magnitude is very wholesome. It is covering economics, it is covering military, it is covering security and strategy, and that
science
too,
and technology, medical and healthcare,
and that too in times where India succumbed to the international pressures, succumbed to the pressure built on by US, but China came up as a strong power which has no pressure from outside world, which has no pressure from United States, and it was a breath of fresh air for Iran. While India has been like, you just check the example of the gas pipeline, India just retracted on it due to US pressure. This is not the case with China. So definitely this will change the regional dynamics, the regional orientation of strategy, politics, economics, and the main aspect of this strategic deal, the main importance of this strategic deal is related to the global political scenario that is developing between US and China.
Now you talk about US-China and the new strategic developments that are happening as far as their relationship is concerned. Now that we see this huge deal taking shape, do you feel that the US is going to use some kind of a pressure tactic directly or indirectly so as to put more pressure on Iran? We know that the JCPOA, the 8th round is going on as we speak. It hasn't ended. Do you feel there could be some kind of a pressure tactic as far as that is concerned to maybe neutralize Iran?
I think US has undergone a lot of pressure from Iran in the sense that the arm twisting is not working. The arm twisting is going on for almost a decade now. These different multilateral platforms, US has been pressurizing Iran, and there is a lot of pressure from Israel as well. But this deal, this very particular deal, and Iran sailing through these difficult waters, indigenizing its technology, indigenizing its defense, and then also finding out new avenues in form of China-Iran strategic deal. I think that is not only diminishing United States influence in the region, but it is also creating a perspective that United States is losing its grip, not only the waterways, but the political channels as well, because otherwise United States has enjoyed a great amount of influence in the whole region, where Iran is sitting on a very important point.
Now, Iran is sitting on a very important point. You said, now that we understand that there is a certain tilt towards China in the whole region as far as geo-economics are concerned, do you feel that the US might try to infringe one way or the other, directly or indirectly, in other countries? We know it has a huge cooperation with India. Do you feel it is going to indirectly go through India in order to maybe create some kind of a parallel competitive atmosphere in the region?
Definitely, it is already doing the same. Pivot of Asia policy or other strategic orientations that it has with India, the strategic initiatives, the understandings that they have, it has created an image of US bringing up a policeman in Asia. But that is, on paper it's fine, but practically it seems difficult, because China is more powerful, it has got more influence. In Asia, I think it is very difficult to compete China, and we see that US diplomacy has been really trying very hard to somehow create good offices in Asia Pacific and East Asian countries, but the Chinese grip on this region in every aspect. There is a very strong Chinese diaspora in these countries,
of course,
particularly in the business context. Chinese state-to-state relationships are very strong. Then China came up with this investment bank, of which all of these countries are members. Then China has made all of these countries part of their business ventures, their strategic initiatives, Belt and Road Initiative. So if we put all these these eggs in a basket, Chinese basket is very heavy.
All right. As far as the Chinese basket is concerned, that you have so eminently described in detail, what does China have to gain from Iran, in your point of view? I know Iran has to gain a lot, because it stabilizes, its exports start to kind of surmount as far as different other countries are concerned in the region. But what does it hold true for China?
Definitely, Iran, as I said earlier, is strategically a very important country. It has got great control over the waterways that are very important for geoeconomics. Then you see it is in need of someone who can buy its oil. And China is a country which is always, yearning for, it is always thirsty for oil reserves, gas reserves. So in all aspects, Iran is a win-win situation for China.
All right.
And it is a win-win situation for Iran as well.
All right. What kind of a situation does it bode for the Middle East as far as this alliance between Iran and China is concerned? We know there are tensions in Yemen, and there is we know about the Houthis and the coalition. We've talked about this today as well. We'll be talking about later in the show as well. Do you feel that the Middle East is going to be influenced by this new alliance, or do you feel it is going to be a routine matter for them?
I think I would appreciate Chinese politicians and Chinese ruling elite. They haven't created a scenario or a situation where it can be seen as something which is counter to anything, something which is not feasible for other Middle Eastern countries. I'll give you an example of the Syrian conflict. In Syrian conflict, you could very easily bifurcate the two sides and the opponents and the proponents. But at that time, China was very mum. You could not place China in one group. It was not in pro-Russia camp, it was not in pro-US camp.
All right.
So it sailed through very comfortably. And when that conflict is over, where Iran took an overwhelming stance in every aspect, politics and strategy, and even on ground as well, and China was like very cautious about it, because as far as Chinese diplomatic model is concerned, they are in no way they do not like, they do not involve into any conflict, any idea that emanates from any conflict. So when that situation kind of resolved, and that political structure got changed, that strategic environment changed, then you see China very directly came to the ground and it struck this deal with Iran, and because then there the scenario was changed. So that's how China sails through, and it never invites any kind of trouble.
All right, let's talk about bloc politics, and this is going to be my last question to you. We know Iran and US have no diplomatic relations since 1979. Iran and US and Chinese relations have also deteriorated of late. Then there is the increasing alliance not only between Iran and China, but also between China and Russia, and also Russia with other countries in the region. Do we see a new force being emerging in the region, which consists of China, of Russia, of Iran, Pakistan, and other countries?
I cannot say that it can emerge as a bloc, but you see them together in similar frameworks because they are in this region. Situation in Afghanistan, situation in Iran has direct bearings on all these countries, on Russia and China particularly. Russia being growing, China being establishing its influence in global politics. So mostly you will see them together on one side of the table.
All right.
But they becoming a Cold War style bloc, I don't see anything like that because the global politics has changed a lot.
What do you foresee then?
But definitely these countries will work together. They will try their level best to diminish US interest as much as they can in this region.
All right. Thank you very much, Salman Bhittani, international relations expert, who have joined us and who have talked to us about this 400 billion US dollars. It's a huge, huge deal that is now being implemented in letter and spirit that has been confirmed by the Iranian side. And let's hope this brings more peace and stability in the region, specifically for Iran. Thank you very much, Salman, to have joined us. Let's go to our second story, ladies and gentlemen, that concerns the relationship between Pakistan and Russia. It has been developing of late, whether it be economic relations or other relations. Pakistan and Russia have been strengthening that in different fields. Of late also there have been telephonic conversations between Vladimir Putin and Imran Khan Saab, and of late Russia has also talked about Islamophobia with particular reference to what happened in France. More in the following report.
Pakistan and Russia are increasing diplomatic efforts to enhance ties given the growing convergence of interests between the two countries. The current humanitarian situation in Afghanistan has prompted a discussion between Pakistani and Russian leaders. Prime Minister Imran Khan and President Vladimir Putin agreed to keep in regular contact with Afghanistan. In a telephonic conversation, Pakistani Prime Minister and Russian President reciprocate a consensus on Afghanistan. According to PM Office official statement, Prime Minister Imran Khan stated that Afghanistan was suffering serious humanitarian and economic issues, emphasizing the importance of international help for Afghans at this critical time. He also emphasized the need of freeing Afghans' financial assets to meet the country's demands. The two leaders are expected to meet in Beijing next month. The inauguration of the Moscow peace talks on Afghanistan in 2017 allowed Pakistani officials to engage with their Russian counterparts. Pakistan participated in the Moscow format, and Russian representative for Afghanistan Zamir Kabalov's presence in the OIC Council set the irritation of the balancing strategy in motion. Both the countries favor continued engagement with the interim Taliban government, while at the same time asking the US to lift economic sanctions against the war-torn country.
Now, to discuss Pakistan-Russia relationship and of course the increase in cooperation between the two countries and also increase in understanding each other's perspectives, we've been joined by Yasir Abbas, who's a foreign affairs expert. Yasir, thank you very much to have joined us. First time in the studios. We've been talking to you a lot over Skype, so first time in the studios. Welcome to Newsroom. Yasir, let's go directly to Pakistan-Russia. We know that Pakistan-Russia since last year developed a stronger relationship. There were new MOUs that were signed in November last year, and that heralds a new era of not only economic partnership but also strategic partnership between Russia and Pakistan. There has also been a lot of telephonic conversations between the Pakistani and the Russian side of late and understanding each other's perspectives. Is this an attempt by both countries not only to strengthen contacts between each other, but also to strengthen the relationship between each other?
Thank you, Omar. So there has been a realization in Pakistan over the last 1 decade where the need for new alliances was realized. And the Cold War rivalry between Pakistan and Russia, which was there in the past, it was fading away, given the regional dynamics of South Asia. So I see these contacts as a process where Pakistan is on a path to explore new avenues of diplomatic engagement, new avenues of economic cooperation. And Russia, by all means, it's a strong power. It's a member of the United Nations Security Council as well. So it has a larger degree of influence, political influence and economic influence, and it was unnatural for Pakistan to seek more engagement with Russia.
All right. Now let's talk about one of the major topics that have been discussed between both countries, and one that both countries converge on, and that is Afghanistan, the situation in Afghanistan. We understand that Russia has a history as far as Afghanistan is also concerned, in fact the former Soviet bloc. Do you feel both countries can also work together to avert this current humanitarian and economic crisis that is engulfing Afghanistan, or maybe work together even to build stability in our neighboring country?
I mean, no doubt, Afghanistan is a big challenge for not just for the region, but for the whole world now, because we have seen how the American withdrawal has positioned Afghanistan in the region where a humanitarian crisis is imminent. So given that, I think that Pakistan and Russia, they both are the major stakeholders in the region, and they directly or indirectly they benefit, and also they might be at the receiving end of any disruption which will happen in Afghanistan. And given that, I think that both countries have the potential and also the leverage in Afghanistan to basically spearhead initiatives which will work for a better and stable Afghanistan. So in this regard, we have seen that both Pakistan and Russia, they have converged on a lot of areas. And with regards to Taliban being a stakeholder in Afghanistan, there is a great degree of consensus between Moscow and Islamabad, and they both accept Taliban as a reality, and which is, I think, a realistic approach to have. And given that, and also there was a Moscow setup for the Afghan dialogue, and then there was an Islamabad forum, which was where
they
the
were part of Troika Plus as well.
Absolutely, Russian participation was vast, and they engaged Islamabad on it. And both countries realize this fact that Afghanistan, if it becomes an epicenter of global terrorism again, and especially with the rise of ISIS across the world, I think both countries will be at the rest.
Let's talk about ISIS or Daesh for that matter. Russia has had a lot of concerns, and it has conveyed those concerns to Afghanistan as far as the presence of Daesh in Afghanistan is concerned. How can that can trickle into the different former Soviet states or even into Russia? Pakistan has also certain concerns as far as extremism is concerned that emanates from Afghanistan, but the Afghan leadership says that there's going to be no trickling of such elements into neighboring countries. How can Russia and Pakistan help Afghanistan in order to prevent this trickling of militancy or extremism?
I think the biggest issue that right now Afghan leadership faces is of legitimacy, and also their mandate to basically have their sway across Afghanistan. And now we have seen that there have been clashes even within Kabul and parts of Afghanistan where ISIS and Taliban have engaged in direct confrontations. So I think it's time that the world, and also particularly Pakistan and Russia, look at Kabul from a very pragmatic perspective and strengthen and leverage its control or its association with the Taliban to ensure that the soil of Afghanistan, the Afghan soil, is not being used by global terrorists or ISIS for that matter, and which can then, because we know that Pakistan has a 2,500 kilometers long border, and Afghanistan also shares borders with Central Asia, and that is a perfect route for the global terrorists to basically pursue their actions across Pakistan and also potentially to Russia as well. So I think the need of the hour is to basically engage Kabul and make it a responsible entity in the region, and make them realize the kind of threat that any presence of state actors such as Al-Qaeda or ISIS will pose for the region, because it will have this spiral effect if it won't be stopped over there. And I strongly believe that both Islamabad and Moscow has this leverage to stop that from happening.
Now, Pakistan-Russian relationships not only focus on working together politically, but also economically. Now, there is cooperation in trade, economy, energy and humanitarian sphere, and also in combating the COVID-19 pandemic. There's also the North-South gas pipeline project, otherwise known as the Pakistan Stream gas pipeline project. Do you feel that as the Prime Minister has also told about his government's resolve for the early realization of this project, how quickly can projects such that are in the pipeline, such as the Pakistan Stream gas pipeline project or the North-South gas pipeline project, can come into realization?
I think that Pakistan has genuine energy problems, and it will be of great importance for Islamabad to pursue it on a priority basis. Because we understand that Russia also needs market access. Its relationship with the West is not the best, and its major energy market, which has traditionally been Europe, it's gradually switching towards a more greener form of greener energy forms. So I think this provides Pakistan an opportunity to basically not only be another market for Russia, but at the same time address its own challenges. This needs a resolve, a political resolve, and also an administrative resolve. We have to ensure that all these initiatives are fast-tracked and executed on a priority basis. Because if the initiatives will go through bureaucratic hurdles, and if the initiatives will be politicized, then I think that we will be at the receiving end of any losses in the shape of furthering our own energy crisis in the country.
Yasir, also our Prime Minister has also appreciated Vladimir Putin's statement as far as Islamophobia is concerned, with reference to the caricatures that appeared in a French publication. And of course, he said that he did not count it as an expression of artistic freedom, but as a violation of religious freedom. That is a very important statement coming from a non-Muslim country such as Russia. How important is that also in order for other countries that are not Muslim countries to understand what religious freedom is and what are the boundaries of that freedom?
Absolutely. We know that countering Islamophobia has been a priority of Imran Khan, and it has been one of his cornerstone of his foreign policy moves across the world, and he has represented the same in the United Nations in all the capitals across the world. And the appreciation, or basically the validation of it coming from Moscow, is a big win for Prime Minister Imran Khan, and generally the whole idea behind the freedom of expression across the world. Because unfortunately across the world there is a general trend towards not having sensitivity towards different religions, different sects, and because of that, the discord, especially with regards to the cartoons and what it entails as a freedom of expression or not, it's a debate which is an open-ended debate in the West. But for 1.5 billion population Muslims, it's a matter of faith. So I think that this coming from a responsible country and also a powerful country such as Russia, it adds value, and I am hopeful that this will basically force other capitals to look at this this whole idea of freedom of expression from a way where, in the name of freedom of expression, violations or in the name of freedom of expressions, this persecution or this basically, misinformation on Islam or any other sect or any other, religious entity is curtailed. So I think this will have a snowball effect in all the capitals across the world.
All right. We know also, Yasir, that the Winter Olympics are beginning in China in the first week of February, and both Imran Khan Saab and Vladimir Putin have been invited, and there are rumors that there will be a meeting of both the leaders on the sidelines of the Winter Olympics as well. A lot of countries in the West, like the US and others, have refused to send official delegations to the opening ceremony. Now, do you feel also that the coming together of China, Russia, Pakistan, whether it be on the venue of Olympics or otherwise, creates a very strong relationship of important countries in this region?
Absolutely, Omar. I think sports are no longer just a mere practice of sports. I mean, it goes beyond, and politics has been a part and parcel of sports, and Olympics being the case, we have seen in the past as well that how participation and not participation has, more driven by your political association. So I think that the coming together of these countries and also Pakistan, supporting Beijing on its Winter Olympics gambit, and these, and the countries coming together in the process, it sends a message. It sends a political message of realignment. At the same time, I wouldn't call it a kind of a troika of three countries coming together for the for regional interest or international interest. But I see this as a kind of a positioning where there is a lot of convergence and sports being a factor. There is a lot of regional convergence. There is a lot of conversion of Afghanistan. So all the three countries coming together, and they share, both at least China and Russia share one common problem right now. It's relationship with the West, and especially with America. So them coming together and Pakistan being part in this process, it sends a diplomatic message across the world.
How do you foresee the future between Pakistan and Russia in the whole context of all that is happening in the region, whether it be the tensions between China and the United States of America, whether it be the renewed relationship between China and Iran? We've talked about in the earlier segment about the $400 billion deal between the two countries that is taking shape as well. How important in your point of view, because I see a lot of changes that are happening on the global scenario, do you foresee stronger blocks emerging in the region?
I think there is a likelihood, and I can see that there are political signaling which suggests so. But then again, diplomatic practice across the world, it's never centers around one issue. And with regards to Pakistan specifically, I strongly believe that rather than becoming part of any bloc, it's our ability to maintain a delicate balance between our relationships. For example, if you are warming up to Russia, it should not come at the cost of bettering our relationship with Washington.
Of course.
And that is something that we have to learn. And in this regard, I think that Pakistan and all other countries, they are pursuing a policy of alternate, diplomatic or economic markets. And I see that building in South Asia. I see that, look at India. It has strong ties with Washington, but at the same time, it enjoys a great deal of diplomatic, connectivity with Moscow as well. But it no way suggests that, India is either becoming part of a bloc of a West or the Russian-led any association. Yes, there is a formation of bloc, but then again, there is a realization that interests, they vary, and you can have similar interest with the Western countries, and at the same time, countries such as Russia and China as well at the same time.
All right, Yasir, also economic relationship between the two countries. We've talked a little bit about it in earlier in the segment. But when we see MOUs being signed between the Oral Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Federation of Pakistan Chamber of Commerce and Industry, creating further economic and trade cooperation on the 26th of November, in fact, 2021, and the different other deals between the two countries that are also in place as far as economic strengthening is concerned. How much of a win-win situation is it for Pakistan in your point of view, or maybe Russia as well?
I think we have to prepare ourselves in a way that our motive should be clear, and because generally the problem that Pakistan's diplomatic engagement has been, and especially with regards to Russia, there is a general perception that, the policies or the initiatives or the projects or the MOUs which are being signed, they're not followed, they're not passionately pursued, and that is one of the reasons that a lot of our initiatives that have gone to the cold storage. And that is something which we need to avoid. And these are the things which can be, because we know that our economy is not in the best shape right now, but with engagement such as, these, with cross-border cross-sectorial engagement with Russia, cross-sectorial engagement China that we already have, we can definitely address these margins in our economic sector. So I think that the onus is on Islamabad and on Pakistan to basically, passionately pursue this newly conceived idea of geoeconomics, which has been the part and parcel of our new national security policy as well. So I think this provides us with a very befitting opportunity to make most of it, and especially the phone call recent, and then again the likely meeting, the bilateral meeting between Prime Minister Imran Khan and Russian President Vladimir Putin. I think it will add value to the institutional engagement that Russia and Pakistan will have in the future.
Do you feel in the past we've seen India playing a spoiler's role as far as Afghanistan is concerned, and of course the incursions into Pakistan through Afghanistan in the past are also no hidden secret. Do you feel that India could also play such kind of a destructive active role as far as the future of Pakistan-Russia relations are concerned? Or do you feel that both countries are already understanding how India operates and are wary of that? Because we know that India has a very strong relationship with Russia as we speak.
I think Russia is in the process of widening its both diplomatic and economic markets. And, from last couple of years, we have seen that Russia has been not hesitating from warming up to Pakistan. We have seen that, in last one decade, there was no, high profile visits. But last year, Sergei Lavrov was in Islamabad and he had high profile engagements with Prime Minister and with our foreign, mission over here. And at the same time, there was a commitment that Russia will support Pakistan, in the counter-terror sector, in the energy sector. So there is a realization, and I'm sure that India would pursue a policy of, being a spoiler in this regard. But I think that Moscow is wary of the fact and also understands that India passionately, pursues its policy of friendship and closeness with the West, primarily with the US. So it opens Moscow to it, for further engagements with all other countries as well. So yes, there will be an attempt to sabotage it. There will be efforts from New Delhi to ensure that the relationship are not strengthened. But I think that both Islamabad and Moscow have a lot in common to basically to not pursue this policy of friendship with each other.
Finally, Yasir, I know I've taken a lot of your time, but understanding the regional dynamics and what happens in the region, and you are one of the experts on that, how do you foresee the future of Pakistan-Russia relations? If I were to ask you to summarize it in one or two phrases.
I think Afghanistan has brought them together strongly, and there is no escaping from there. And I think that this point of conversion will have a snowball effect, and both Moscow and Islamabad will come closer. And this I see, and it's my own understanding, and I believe that there are a lot of regional developments which are taking place, which will bring both these countries together.
All right. Thank you very much, Yasir Abbas, to have joined us, to have talked to us about this very important aspect of the relationship between Pakistan and Russia, something that is getting more favorable with each passing day, and we hope to see a strong relationship between the two countries, and that could maybe bring stability in the whole region as well. Thank you very much, Yasir, to have joined us.
Thank you.
Let's come to our last four stories, ladies and gentlemen, very, very quickly. First of all, let's take you to Abu Dhabi, where 3 people have been killed in a Houthi drone attack, in which one of the casualties is a Pakistani. There was a strong statement that came from the Foreign Office as well, in which it was said that Pakistan strongly condemned the heinous terrorist attack on civilian areas carried out by the Houthis in Abu Dhabi that claimed several lives, including 1 Pakistani nationals, and that it said that we offer our condolences to the families of the victims and wish speedy recovery, and that such attacks violate the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the UAE and pose a grave threat to a regional peace and security. Pakistan calls for their immediate cessation. There has been a reaction to that as well. There more than a dozen have been dead in a coalition strikes on Yemen's Sana'a following this attack in the UAE. About 14 people in a building in the Yemeni capital of Sana'a have been killed as a reaction to this as well. Let's go to Afghanistan, ladies and gentlemen, where of course 26 people have been killed in an Afghan earthquake which hit Western Afghanistan on Monday. This happened in Qadis district in the western province of Baghdis. A spokesperson for the province, Baz Mohammad Sarwari, said the shallow quake was of magnitude 5.3 according to the US Geological Survey. The Foreign Office has also talked about it and has said that they are deeply saddened by the earthquake that has struck the area. Then, ladies and gentlemen, the widow of the Sri Lankan national Priyantha Kumara, who was lynched on blasphemy charges in Sialkot last month, has received a grant of around $100,000 US or 17.6 million rupees, and the first month's salary of $1,667 that has been sent by the Rajco Industries as financial aid to the widow of the former general manager, and a salary for the month of December 2021. Our Prime Minister Imran Khan Sahab has also tweeted about that and has said that this monthly salary will continue to be given to the widow of the former manager for a period of 10 years. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to the artistic arena and let's talk about Saadat Hasan Manto. Today is his 67th death anniversary. He has given a lifetime of services as far as Urdu literature is concerned. Eminent Urdu language story writer, radio script writer, journalist. He has written a lot of books that many deem controversial. Nevertheless, he has had a very sharp and acidic tongue and pen as far as what goes on in society is concerned. He is a legend. He has been memorized and of course made memorable through his different books, his different short stories that are still available in all the different libraries, and he will always remain a legend for all those who love literature. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new segments and stories that matter to us, you and Pakistan. In the meantime, get yourselves vaccinated and follow the SOPs. Omicron is here in Pakistan. Allah.